All right, welcome. It is now Friday, so we've gone through our first week of distance learning for the trimester. So I hope this week has been going okay for you. And again, please do not hesitate to send me an email if you're having any issues, and I'm more than happy to help you out. So let's get going with today. Today we're going to be working towards learning target 4. I can write a stepwise experimental procedure and I can collect data and organize it in a data table. So your to-do list for today is to start out with watching this video. And again, make sure that you're keeping up with taking the notes and the daily review problems. Step 2, you're going to watch a Google Sheets information video that was made by Miss Loso, another 9th grade science teacher here. Really make sure that you watch this video. You are going to be able to watch the video and work on your assignment for today at the same time to ensure that you do it correctly, because you're going to be using that data table that you make today on Monday to create a graph as well. So it's very important that you watch the whole video and follow every step that she is explaining. And so again, that goes with your step 3 of creating a data table in Google Sheets. So let's move forward with our daily review problem for today. So let's review what independent and dependent variables are. So remember, your independent variable is what is being changed by the scientist, and the dependent variable is what you are going to be measuring. So our example here is you want to see if shoe brand can make a person run faster. So in your notes, I want you to write down what would be our independent variable for this experiment and what would be the dependent variable. So take a moment, pause the video, and write down your answer. All right, so let's go over what our answers will be. Let's see, today we'll do a purple color. Our independent variable is going to be the shoe brand. That is what we are going to be changing. We want to see if the shoe brand can make a person run faster. So what is going to be our dependent variable? It's going to be the running speed, or how fast the person ran. Right? We're changing the shoe brand. We want to see how fast they are going to run. All right, so erase this here. Bear with me for a second. All right. So our next daily review problem, I want you to label one picture action and the other picture response. And then I want you to write a question for the action and response seen above. And then I want you to form a hypothesis for this question. And so remember, with our hypothesis, we want to think about if, independent variable, then dependent variable, because. So take a moment, pause the video, and complete this second daily review problem. All right, so let's start with labeling our pictures action and response. So our action here is going to be the studying. So here's our action. He is studying. And then our response is going to be, we can say, the test score. They're taking a test after studying. So let's write a question. So an example of a question you could have wrote, maybe it's something similar, maybe a little different, but along the same line is, if I study, or how does studying affect test scores? So we have our action of studying and our response of the test scores. So our independent variable would be the studying, and our dependent variable is going to be that test score. So our hypothesis could be, if I study more, then I will have a higher test score because I have practiced the material more. So your answer could have been a little bit different, but kind of along those same lines, depending on how you phrased things. So again, let me get rid of these words before I go on to the next slide. All right. So our vocabulary word today that we are starting with is trials. And so a trial is how many times an experiment is repeated. and using it for a sentence here, doing more trials produces more accurate results. And so, ideally, you want to do as many trials as you can. I would say at least 3, but the higher we get, the more accurate our results are going to be. So, take a moment, make sure that you wrote down the definition, the sentence, and you can draw some sort of picture or find one online to use. And so now, let's take a look at data tables here. So this is what you're going to be working with a lot today and on Monday. A data table is columns and rows used to organize information. And we can spread out the Y section in our data table based on the number of trials. So let's take a look at what this all means. So we can see here that we have our data table. We are looking at the time it takes to run 100 meters. And we can see that we have people, and we had 3 people, 1, 2, and 3. So our independent variable here is the person. Our person 1, 2, and 3. They change. And then what we're going to be measuring, our dependent variable, is the time it takes to run 100 meters. So in our data table, we have person 1, and we did 3 trials for each person. So person 1, the first time they did it, they ran 100 meters in 20 seconds. The second time they ran 22 seconds at 100 meters, and then 19.6 the third time. So when you add up each of their times and then divide that number by 3, they got an average time of 20.5 seconds. And then you can see the times for person 2 and their average, and then person 3 on the bottom here and their average. So again, what was changing was the person, and what we were measuring, our dependent variable, was the amount of time it took to run 100 meters. And so today, when you're making your data table, you're going to be looking at the amount of fertilizer and the plant height. And again, there was trials for that example that you'll see in your assignment today too. All right, so now let's think about writing procedures. So I want you, it says with a partner, but obviously we're not in school right now, so you're going to do this on your own. I want you to take a moment and write out step-by-step instructions for how to tie a shoe. And I want you to assume that the person reading what you write has never tied a shoe before. So you could think maybe like a kindergartner or first grader, somebody learning to tie a shoe, or even somebody older who's maybe never tied a shoe. So take a moment, pause the video, and write out step-by-step instructions for how to tie a shoe. All right, so let's talk about a few things with the procedure you might have wrote. So if you started with crossing the laces and making that knot, the odds are the person putting that on probably didn't know what that meant. Maybe the shoe wasn't even on their foot yet. So you might have even had to start with number 1, grab the right shoe. Number 2, put the right shoe on the right foot. Maybe step 3 is pulling the tongue up. Step 4 might be put the right lace in your right hand. Step 5 might be put the left lace in the left hand. Step 6 might be cross the right lace over the left, and then so on, being very specific. So let's break down what our procedures should look like. Now that we're kind of seeing, okay, we have to be very specific and very detailed, let's take a look at what we should be including with writing procedures. Move my camera even a little more out of your way. So a written procedure is a step-by-step guide to direct a reader through any task. So you always want to number your steps. So starting with step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5. Just kind of like how this is here, right? We have our steps. Your steps should be written in present tense. That means you want your verbs to be doing. So put the right shoe on your right foot. Number 3, steps should be easy to understand and have enough detail for anyone to follow. And this part can be a little complicated because we get familiar with how to do things, right? We have to act as if the person reading this has never done it before, never heard of it before. We want to be as specific as we can so that it can be replicated by anybody. So if I wrote a procedure to tie a shoe, I could go bring it over to somebody living in, I don't know, Mars and give it to them and they could figure out how to tie a shoe. And then, lastly, number 4, the procedure should include steps that allow for a sufficient amount of quantitative data to be collected. Remember, quantitative is numbers. So that includes like your number of trials and all of that. So that is all for our notes on this Friday. So your next step is to watch another video, and at the same time, you get to be working on your own Google Sheets to create your data table, looking at amount of fertilizer and plant height. So let me know if you have any questions that pop up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And that's it for our first week.